Hello everyone and welcome back to the Mystery Theory. I've tried to record this video way too many times and there's always something happening. It's either there's a lot of background noise that I can't edit out, or there is something up with the mic not connected properly. I don't know what's up with this video, but I really wanted to share with you today, Friday, the 12th of October. I am really excited for today because I've been waiting to go watch the movie, the new one, Halloween, and I just downloaded all the movies so I can watch them from the beginning and kind of get an idea of how they are connected or how they ended up connecting the story. I know that a lot of popular movies, they usually don't do like a lot related with other, previous movies, but I thought that this one, I don't know, something in the trailer tells me that has to do a lot with what and how this movie started. So I'm really excited to go watch it, but I really do want to get this video done before the end of the day. So we are going to talk about today about the Gainesville murders, which was requested quite recently, but I thought since they say that the movies Scream were based in this true story, then I thought that it would be appropriate for the month of October. However, if you watch the movies and you're thinking, it's dumb or whatever, I'm gonna tell you that pretty much the only thing that they steal from the sick person who killed this young people is the idea, but then the rest has nothing to do with what really happened to them. So today we're going to talk about that. This is another setup because I've been working on a permanent setup and I haven't been able to, so we'll see how it goes, and the light is kind of weird, but that's okay. So let's get started with today's video. Well, it started of course in Gainesville, Florida, and the idea behind this, it was a series of murders that involved kids in college. Yeah, for me, people in college are kids. That's how old I am. But so that's basically the main idea of the Gainesville murders, but we're gonna go a little bit deeper. We're gonna explore each one of the murders, and we are also going to talk about the killer. How a lot of people, and I've heard a lot of podcasts and documentaries that actually revolve around the killer. I wanted to do it differently and kind of start with the main story and then end up on why the police think that he committed these horrible crimes, okay? So, again, this started in Gainesville, Florida in the year 1990. It was about the time that school was going to start, and I'm talking about Florida University. It was about to start on Monday, and all the kids, and especially freshmen, were settling and getting ready, before school started. So there were a couple of girls that were really, really young, 17-year-old Christina Powell and 18-year-old Sonia Larson. Now, they are both freshmen, their first year, everything is new. They got an apartment and they needed last minute things to kind of get it all set up before the school started. So they decided to go to Walmart and buy those things. When they were paying the cash register, they were spotted by a guy. Of course, they didn't notice the guy. They were doing their own thing and excited and everything. And as most 17 or 18-year-old are ripped her clothes off, raped her, and then killed her. He stabbed her to death. Now, he decided then that he was going to mutilate her body and cut the nipples and keep them in a plastic bag as a souvenir. Then he decides to wash her body just to make sure that he gets rid of all the evidence, DNA, and everything. By the way, maybe he thought that was a great idea, but let me tell you, it's almost impossible to remove everything. So, but he wanted to, or at least he tried. So he did that, and then he decided to stick around for a little bit, and he ate an apple and a banana. He also left the peel of the banana behind, and he then jumps in his bike and leaves the apartment. Now, before that, he decided to position, I think it was, but don't quote me, I think it was only Christina. He positioned her body in a very sexual manner, and later the police realized that he wanted to create a shock effect to the first responders who went to the crime scene. So a pretty sick son of his mother. So the next target, however, was Krista Hoyt. Apparently the guy was talking on these girls, and Krista was only 18 years old too. She was an honor student, and this time she wasn't attending the University of Florida, but she was going to community college, Gainesville Community College. She was also working as a record clerk in a nearby sheriff's office. He decides to go to, after following for a while, he decides to go to Krista's apartment. He breaks in, by the way, he breaks into every single house the same way. He grabs a screwdriver and he opens the back door. How? I have no idea, and I'm not interested in learning that kind of thing. But it's pretty interesting to know that with just one screwdriver, he was able to open every single back door that, he got into. Mind you, he has a criminal history and, robberies and stuff like that kind of background, but I don't know. However, when he got inside Krista's apartment, she wasn't there. She was playing racquetball with a friend. So he waited for her for about 30 minutes. When Krista got home at about 10:30, he waited until she got inside, and when she put away the key and closed the door, he attacked her the same way that he did the other girls. He taped her mouth, he bound her hands so she couldn't move. She cut her clothes and then raped her. Of course, then he stabbed her to death. He then left the apartment, but an hour later he remembered that he forgot his wallet. I don't know if he was buying something and he remembered, or he checked and he didn't have his wallet. Whatever the case may be, he decided to go back to the apartment because, again, he's a sick son of his mother. So he goes inside, he gets his wallet, but then decides, why not cut her head off and put it on a shelf just so I can create that shock effect for the police again, which, again, very sick, very twisted, and very creepy. So on Monday the 27th, this was August the 27th, everything started on the Thursday before. At 1 a.m., another college student is at her house. Now, by this time, they already knew about the couple of girls that were killed on the morning of Friday. So everyone is kind of in a high alert, and especially this specific college student, which was older but still was very, very scared of what was going on. So she was waiting for her roommate. I think he's 23 years old. Yes, he's 23 years old. His name is Manny. He's over 200 pounds and he's 6'3", so she felt a little bit more protected around this guy. Now, Tracy was also 23 years old, and she is doing her senior year. She is studying political science, become a lawyer. So she was older. She was in her last year there, and she, it was a completely different scenario. Now, Manny was a bartender, and he got home around 2:30 a.m. Apparently, and I think that this guy was already watching the apartment from the outside. I'm not 100% sure, but Manny gets my notes, as always, very colorful, like my brain. So Manny gets in his room and goes to bed, and at the time Tracy feels a little bit safer, so she also goes to bed. Now this guy again breaks in through the back door, and he sees two rooms. One of them was dark and it had the door open, and the other one had the light on, but the door was closed. So he later revealed that he had to pick which one to go first, just to make sure that he got, the guy's room first and get rid of him first. So without even knowing that that was Manny's room, he decides to go into the dark room and he starts stabbing him to death. Now, Manny did put up a fight. I mean, he was a big guy, and anybody would, even if you are a tiny person, I'm pretty sure that you're gonna fight for your life. So there was a struggle, and Tracy heard something, so she decided to go check it out, and she went to Manny's room. When she got in, she saw the guy immediately run back to her room, but the guy ran after her, and he didn't let her close the door or lock the door. So he actually got inside the room. He again does the same thing, bound her hands, tape her mouth, cut her clothes, stab her 3 times, and then kills her. Now, by the way, he stabbed 31 times Manny. I mean, that's how big of a fight he had for his life. So by now, the police have 3 different crime scenes with 5 different students dead, and they knew that this was a serial killer. The MO was the same, it was with a knife. They all had tape, they were all cut, and they were all posed in some kind of a sexual way or some kind of a shock effect that he wanted to create, like in the case of Krista cutting her head off. It was almost, for the police, it was almost like he wanted to kill and scar the police by those images that, if you're a first responder, of course you'll have horrible scenes that you have to walk into, but I think what he did, it was to create something that they could never forget. Now, all the victims, they also have in common that they were killed by the same kind of knife. It was a marine issue K-bar knife that is used for military combat. Now, the media started to call this guy the Gainesville Ripper, and at this time, because of the media and because of the killings, of course, it became kind of a circus, the Gainesville area, and people were really, really worried, to the point that parents were flying their kids back home and have them take a break until they could find whoever was killing the students. The guns were they were sold out. They had no guns in the area that they could sell because people were buying them for protection. Now, the University of Florida did end up closing for a week and hoping that the police could find this guy within that week so the students can come back and return to their studies. The police had 1,500 pieces of evidence to go through, and those included some semen that they ran through the database to see if they could find the guy. Now, for some weird reason, they had a suspect, and according to my research, the suspect was because people were saying that this guy could have done it. His name was Edward Humphrey, and he was the #1 suspect for a really long time. People believe that he was the one that did it. His picture was all over the news, all over everywhere, media. They really put him as the Gainesville Ripper. Now, this guy apparently lived in the apartments where Tracy and Manny lived a few months prior. He was also a freshman at the University of Florida, and apparently he was kicked out of those apartments So they thought that because of that, he could have been the one. And he also had a crush on Tracy, and Tracy didn't really like him. So people thought that he was the one that actually killed all those students. Now, on August 30th, 1990, in Indian Atlantic, Florida, Edward Humphrey was arrested after a violent altercation with his grandmother, but he was taken to a mental hospital and diagnosed as being maniac depressive. He was suspected to have something to do with the killings of the students, so he was also interrogated for 24 hours straight. Now, if you know that you have somebody with a mental disability or with some kind of a mental illness, that you don't even take them to jail, you take them to a mental institution instead of going to jail. I do not understand the 24 hours pushing the guy to confess of something that they thought he did, but they had no proof that he did it. The police decided, however, to set a $1 million, not the police, but you know what I mean, a $1 million bail on the guy for an altercation, with his grandma. The grandma lifted the charges. She didn't want him to go to jail, but the police didn't care, so they kept him in jail so they could interrogate him and hopefully try to find something that would connect him to the murders. So they decided to get a search warrant of his apartment, and when they got inside, they couldn't find anything related to the murders. However, what they did find is that this guy had a split personality. Half of his apartment was neat and very, very clean, and the other half was filthy. I don't know who decided that this guy had a split personality. I have no idea who did. I don't know if they had an expert with them or if the police kind of figured that out because of how the apartment was, but having a split personality doesn't make you a killer. Now, what really have them thinking that the guy had something to do, especially the media that was promoting him as the Ripper, was the idea that the killings stopped while he was in jail. So in October, he gets convicted for battery. The incident that he had with his grandma. He got 22 months in a psychiatry hospital. While he was in the hospital, initially they did take blood and stuff to compare with the DNA, and at the time that he got convicted for battery, the test came back and he wasn't the killer. Now, what it really bothers me is that the police didn't take the time to explain to the public how this wasn't the guy in the big manner that they actually kind of incriminated the guy. I feel like there was a lot of I don't want to say publicity, but there was a lot of things going on at the time in the media, putting him as a bad guy, as somebody crazy who killed all these students, and then all of a sudden they know that it's not him, but still he kind of remains being the number one suspect for a really long time because nobody took the time to make things clear enough, or maybe it wasn't popular enough, or maybe the people wanted to have an answer, but he wasn't it. So the police decided to go to VICAP, which is the FBI Violent Criminal Apprehension Database, to see if the MO would match with any other killings in the States. They got 8 hits, but out of the 8, only one was an exact match. That one was a killing that was it was a murder of 3 people on November 4th, 1989. This was Grissom, his daughter Julie, and his grandson, who were murdered in their home. Each were stabbed with a long-bladed instrument, probably a K-bar knife, just like the ones in the Gainesville murders. Julie, however, was the one that was the worst. Apparently the guy really took it out on her, and he also not only stabbed her more than he stabbed the rest of the people that was there, but he also posed her in a very sexual way and posed again for the police to find her. So this was a perfect match. This was the guy that times he pulled a gun, and he pulled a gun on his own son. However, apparently Danny got a hold of the gun, and he started. I don't know if he wanted to shoot the people or the father, or if it was in the struggle that happened, but he ended up shooting twice his dad. He thought that he killed the dad, so he ran away from the scene, and he decided that he wanted to move out of Louisiana, but he had no job, he had no money, and he had no means to move out of state without that. So he decided to start some kind of a strike of armed robberies until he could have enough money to move out of Louisiana. So he did by stealing supermarkets. I mean, he would go with his gun and basically rob them. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this, but James survived. My question is, why didn't he report it to the police? Did he report it to the police, or didn't he? It's kind of weird for me to understand why there's not more information about this, because if he did report it, then Danny was a wanted man. And if he didn't, there still would be evidence to point to him. I don't understand that part, but I thought I should mention it. Now, he was stealing supermarkets, he was robbing them, and he was moving through the southeast of the United States from May to September. And then in the month of August, he kind of settled in the Gainesville area while the murders were happening. On September 8th, 1990, he decided to go, after the murders and everything, he decided that he needed a little bit more money. I don't know if he wanted to move out of state or what his plan was, but he decided to go and rob a Winn-Dixie. Now, that was the supermarket of choice to go and rob from, or steal from. And this guy, he actually, he's done it before, so this time he felt so comfortable that he went in the middle of the day, in the busiest time of the store. He decided to go at that time. He takes the office manager at gunpoint to open the safe, but at that time the bookkeeper arrives and calls 911. So Danny runs, he steals a car, and the police chase him to the point that he crashes the car and then start to run by foot. However, he gets caught by the police, by the Ocala police, and then they notify the Gainesville police that they have their guy. On January 24th, 1991, the police visit, the Ocala jail and get blood and fingerprints along with the belongings of Danny. Now they get a few haircut clippings, a little bit of his hair, and a tooth that it was removed after a dental procedure that was done. And they went to run some tests and kind of confirm that this was the guy that committed the murders. And in fact, after waiting for their results, this was their guy. Now, the police could have gotten this guy way before, and I'm gonna explain why. This is something that is talked a little bit too much, and it kind of relates on how they got enough evidence to convict the guy, but let's talk about it. Well, on August 27th, 1990, a bank was robbed really close to Krista's Hoyt's residence, and the next morning, the police find Danny and a buddy that were in a forest area, so they decide to stop and chat with them because it was close by the bank and they were investigating that. Danny's buddy stays, but Danny runs, and so the police chase him. Okay, this was before, they apprehended him. I'm just giving you this little side story of how they could have gotten the guy earlier and they didn't. So they run into his campsite, Danny's campsite, and they find money that is marked with ink, which means that was the money from the bank, duct tape, a knife, a handgun, and a screwdriver. ski mask. And they also find a cassette recorder with a cassette inside that they don't care to check at the time because they thought that maybe somebody was running away from the police, but they didn't think that this guy was so dangerous that they didn't even care to check the tape. However, when they start to put pieces together after they apprehended Danny and after all the murders, which at least the last one could have been avoided, they check the cassette and they hear, Danny's voice saying that he knew that he would have to run for the rest of his life after what he did, but he was getting really good at it, and the police weren't really catching up to him. Now, in 1991, detectives go over the evidence and found fibers in the ski mask that matched some of the fibers at one of the crime scenes. They find blood in the pants that match Manny's blood, and they also found another victim's pubic hair in his sleeping bag. So they knew that they had enough evidence to convict the guy at that time. He first was tried for armed robbery and got life in prison. Then a month later, he got 3 life sentences for robbery, assault, and burglary. Then he got 5 counts of first-degree murder, sexual battery, 3 counts of armed burglary, and he pleads not guilty. I mean, he has the guts to plead not guilty, but there's a twist to the story. He kept his innocence for about 8 months when he later confessed to an inmate of what he did and exactly how he did it. Now, his friend in jail, who was also an inmate, was Bobby Lewis, and Bobby Lewis actually was the one that said everything to the police. Danny wanted to confess, but he wanted to do it through his inmate friend and not himself. He didn't want to say it out loud. Danny claims that he has had an inner demon that was called Gemini, who is responsible for all the murders. Gemini happened to be one of the demons that was, I think, in one of the... Oh my goodness. What is it called, that scary movie? Oh gosh. The Exorcist. It's one of the demons that was in one of the movies of The Exorcist. The police didn't believe a thing that he was saying. I mean, they knew that he was the guy who did everything, but they just didn't want to believe that he had some kind of a mental illness or that he had some kind of demon inside him that made him do what he did. What they did believe is that he was treated very poorly while he was a kid. His dad was a police officer, but he was not a very good one. He was very violent, and he would hit and abuse Danny and his mom every single week, physically and mentally. He would tell Danny how much he hated him and wished that he was never born. And he would hit the mom in front of him several times a day, sometimes. When Danny was 9 years old, he had to kind of live with the idea that his dad was going to be the one around because his mom had a mental breakdown, which was really hard for him. Later on, he dropped out of high school and enters the Air Force, but he was dishonorably discharged because he started drinking and he was abusing drugs, so he was discharged. He gets out of the Air Force and he meets this beautiful girl in a church. It almost seemed like he was trying to make things better, and I'm just going through, the early years because the police kind of made a big impact or a big emphasis that this probably had to do a lot with what he did. And then he marries this girl. They have a kid, almost like he was trying to have a normal life, and then he started drinking again and doing drugs, and they end up divorcing. And not only that, now he had no family, he had no job, no nothing, so was at the time that he started to do the armed robberies and go into different supermarkets. He got caught eventually, and I'm just telling you all this story that happened before just because it kind of makes a point of why he ended up killing the 8 people that he did. But when he gets caught, he gets 30 years, but he only serves 8. And when he gets out of jail, he promised himself that he will kill 8 people and that he will create a gruesome crime scene for the police to go see it, and that was going to be his revenge for the police keeping him in jail for 8 years. Now, I don't understand why instead of 30 years he only served 8, but that's what happened. On February 15, 1994, against his lawyer's advice, he claimed he pleads guilty of killing everyone. He, of course, got the death penalty on April 20th, 1994. So he confessed of killing everyone and pled guilty to, February, and he was sentenced on April. He was killed on October 26, 2006, and I'm gonna go with my thoughts and everything on this later on. But the one thing that I think he's more well known for is because he was singing, and he was very peaceful at the time of his execution. He was singing worship songs, and he was praying, and he was reciting the Bible at the time that he died. Now, a lot of people believe that, what he did was unforgivable, and he's probably rotting in hell, and they are hoping that he's rotting in hell. And a lot of people also believe that he deserved to die. Now, I think that the 8 months that he claimed that he was innocent, it was trying to, him stay alive and to, kind of defend himself. But I think that, according to my research on those 8 months where he started to confess to the murders through his inmate friend, I think that is when he found that he could be forgiven. I mean, he apparently at that time he found God. He repented of everything that he did, but he knew, almost like a 12-step program, that in order for him to be forgiven, and again, I'm just telling you, all the research that I've done, in order to be forgiven, he needed to confess to everything that he did. A lot of people said that he got the conscience back. A lot of people say that he changed, in those 8 months because of finding God or whatever religion he became part of, and that is why he ended up confessing to all the murders. I think that's a very possible theory. I think that that's why he did it. A lot of people say that they do not understand why he pleaded not guilty and then guilty. Well, something changed, and it kind of does make sense that he got close to God or whatever religion he decided to, But, and that would explain why it took him 8 months to confess. And that would explain why he was so peaceful at the time of his execution, because of, the religion that he followed prior to his death. Again, a lot of people kind of start this story with his story, and I wanted to leave it at the end because I don't care, really. I mean, 8 people die for absolutely no reason. So I think that they deserved a little bit more respect, and not the other people that talk about Danny Rawling, are being disrespectful. But I thought that I would pay a tribute to the victims who actually, how everything happened, instead of focusing on why he did what he did. who you are, and they are part of who you are, I should say. But that doesn't mean that you have to repeat the same mistakes. That doesn't mean that everyone does. That's what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of people that have the worst, horriblest, and most traumatizing childhood memories, but they become really good people. They actually want to make a difference. They actually want to be different. So for me, that is not an excuse. He had no mental illness. He had nothing. But if he actually found a way to regret of what he did, ask for forgiveness or whatever, however he dealt with that, well, that shows something. But that's not going to bring back all that people that died for absolutely no reason. Not only that, but they were killed in horrible ways. That doesn't mean that the police officers that got into those crime scenes are going to remove their from their memories the fact that they saw a head on a shelf. Those are the kind of things that you cannot undo. I remember, since it was a little girl, something that I read that said that, you know, when you hurt somebody, it's like you are putting a nail on a wall. You can patch it up, but it will never be the same. It will never be that perfect wall that was in the beginning. So I guess that he tried to patch things up, that he tried to do things better, but I mean, he was running away from the police because he thought he killed his dad, so he started killing random people. And again, he has no mental illness or anything to blame, but being an angry man and being somebody who was abused, and now he became the abuser. So, if you're angry, look for help. Try to find help. Try to fix it as soon as possible, and don't let it go for so many years until things boil up in a way that maybe you hurt somebody. Not in this horrible way, but you know what I mean. Because of things that happened to you when you were younger. Anyways, that is it for this case. I hope that everything recorded. I know that the lighting changed and now it's very, very dark, especially because of my dark hair. Everything gets darker. But let me know in the comments down below if you heard this story before and what you think about it. Do you really believe that he had a demon inside